All right, we are ready to begin the candidate interviews for the position 7 for council. And our first candidate is Kelly Berger. You can come up and sit at the table. And if you could please turn your microphone on in the middle and then just speak clearly into the mic. And then there will be a timer set for 30 minutes on the screen in front of you.
Let's do this.
Okay, so the way this will work is each of us is we're going to go around the dais and each ask you one question. If there's any concerns about the question or need to hear it again, just let us know, okay?
Yep.
And these are going to be in no particular order, I think we agreed on, right? Or are we just going 1 through 10?
Oh, what? Well, I thought it was 1 through 10.
We just want to go 1 through.
Order.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it. So it's easy.
Okay. All right, question 1. What is your vision for this role and how would you operationalize your vision?
So I love living in Sequim. My family loves living in Sequim. We like the progress and direction Sequim has been going in since we lived here for 5.5 years. So my vision would be to just maintain the things that make Sequim a unique and desirable place to live while creating opportunities to make Sequim a place where everyone can have a quality of life. And I would do that by working collaboratively with you all, other council members, city employees, listen to the public's concerns, comments, research different policies and creative ideas, and just make timely decisions to advance work.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Let's move on. Are there any issue areas that you are particularly passionate about?
Yes, there are a few. I'm most passionate about improving and expanding the infrastructure of Sequim, make Sequim a safer community, more walkable community, like things like sidewalks, streetlights, bike lanes, crosswalks. I'm also passionate about protecting green and natural spaces, environmental preservation, parks, community spaces, and making all those spaces accessible for everybody in Sequim. Making it easy for small businesses to successfully operate and maintaining the small town character that Sequim has. I think that's very important. And just creating those opportunities for businesses. And another big one is affordable housing, prioritizing workforce housing for those businesses so they can operate. And just making more opportunities for young families to move to Sequim. And lastly, positive youth development. So more youth-driven activities, opportunities to meaningfully engage youth as contributing members to the community.
Alrighty, let's just give it a second for everybody to write stuff down. And one other thing to mention too, if you look at us and we're looking down, we're just writing as quick as we can.
Yep.
So don't mind that. All right.
Paying attention.
Question number 3. How do you provide guidance, foster creativity, welcome opposing viewpoints, and open dialogue?
I listen to understand and accept different viewpoints and opinions. I come from a place of compassion and empathy. I allow others to be themselves and don't judge others for being themselves. And I just try to speak to others with respect and humility and just honor their opinions. And I do this on a daily basis because I'm a stay-at-home dad to a 3-year-old. So.
Okay, Kelly, what legislative advocacy experience will you bring to the Sequim City Council? How would you leverage this experience to foster growth and relationship building with legislators?
So legislative advocacy experience is something I'm currently seeking. I do have experience advocating for my son who has complex medical needs. And I think that skill of advocating and building relationships for him is transferable, even though my experience is not directly with legislation. And I would leverage my experience of advocating for my son by leaning into my strengths, which are being personable, forming connections, and finding common ground to work towards a common goal.
Thank you. Can you please take a few minutes to introduce yourself to us? We're interested in hearing the highlights of your experience relevant to this position and why you're interested in being a Sequim City Council member.
Yes. So my name's Kelly. I'm 34 years old. I've been married for 10 years to my wife, Miranda, whom I think you were just at a board meeting with earlier. I have 2 boys. We've lived in Sequim for 5.5 years. I like to surf. I like to garden. I got a big garden in my backyard. And I love living in Sequim. Like I said earlier, I like the direction the city's been going. And I just want to help move the work forward to make Sequim a place where everyone can have a quality of life. And I believe local government is one of the best opportunities to make meaningful change in the community. As far as my professional experience goes, I have experience working as part of teams on a sales team. When I worked at the naval base in Silverdale, I was selected as part of a leadership team to advocate for employees while working with upper management to kind of meet the organizational goals. And working with people from different diverse backgrounds, both as a colleague and a supervisor. My personal experience, I've experienced living in Sequim as a young person, as part of a young family, as a parent to young children born and raised in Sequim. We bought our first house in Sequim 5.5 years ago. And I'm a quick learner. I enjoy learning new things, solving problems. I frequently tackle home improvement projects independently, just through self-learning and research. Most recently, I added a permitted second bathroom to my house that I'm pretty proud about. So, yeah.
Based on what you know of this position, what skills or qualities do you believe are needed for someone to be successful in this role?
I think some important skills, you need to be approachable and outgoing. You need to be able to work as part of a team and be a reliable part of that team. You appreciate and be respectful of differing opinions, value others' input. You need to be willing to learn, kind of think outside the box, research different issues, and be able to make decisions and move forward in a timely manner to achieve goals.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Number 7, strong relationships are a key element of success. Can you give us an example of an experience that will demonstrate your ability to create, develop, and maintain successful partnerships and relations? What were the key components of your successes?
Yeah. So I mentioned before my oldest son was born. He was born with a critical congenital heart defect. We didn't get his diagnosis till after he was born, so it was a surprise to us. And he faced many life-threatening complications in his first months of life. He's doing great now. And so my wife and I, we developed strong relationships with this care team at Seattle Children's and here and in Port Angeles at OMC. And we had to do so during very stressful events and times. And we've been able to maintain these relationships to this day to ensure he receives high quality care. His pediatrician and his cardiac nurse have come to some celebrations for his recoveries at our home. And my wife participates on a parent-patient advisory council at Seattle Children's on behalf of our family. And yeah, we send regular updates to his care team, and we find opportunities to give back to the medical community that helped him out. And I think some key components to that success were just building trust between ourselves and the care team by openly and clearly communicating our values for our son and questions we had, concerns, strongly advocating for a path that honored our values and balancing that with listening to the expertise of his care team, and just learning and leaning into our family's individual strengths.
All right, next question. What issues are our city facing now?
Yeah, so some issues that I see are outdated and incomplete infrastructure, such as lack of sidewalks, lack of street lights, just lack of other safety measures. Some streets where I walk my dogs, you'll have a sidewalk and then it'll just randomly stop and then pick up again. There's no sidewalks or street lights on my street. And I think that's also compounded by just the rapid expansion of Sequim and the rising population. There's a lack of affordable and diverse housing, particularly workforce housing. And I think that's contributing to workforce shortages of just local businesses not being able to find people that can afford to live here. And I think there's challenges for youth. There's a lack of activities, school engagement. There's definitely a need for some safe spaces and communities for the youth in Sequim.
Kelly, how do you ensure that your decisions align with our organizational goals and objectives? Can you provide an example of a decision you made that directly contributed to achieving those goals?
Yeah. So to ensure my decisions align, I just keep in mind that I'm working as part of a larger team and it's a collaborative effort. It's not every person for themselves, and just work to move things forward. Just not blocking things just because you don't agree with something or because you don't like something. Just trying to find the common ground and just keeping the collective vision and goals at the forefront of the decisions you make. And an example, when I worked at Bricks Marine on the sales team, I was a sales estimator. And I was put in charge of developing a GSA contract with the federal government to sell boats. And it was a very labor intensive and confusing process. And so I made the decision to go to my sales team and recommend I go to a trade show in New Orleans to meet directly with the GSA contract officers and kind of ask them questions and get guidance. And it also helped form the relationship with those contractors. So when I came back home, could email them questions or call them, and kind of made the whole process much easier.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we asked you questions. Now it's your turn. Do you have any questions for us?
What advice would you give to an incoming city council member?
Relax. Do a lot of reading.
I would say that it is like a fire hose of information. So it's really easy to get overwhelmed, but it's also important to remember that it's very human to not be able to process everything at once. And I feel like being a council member it takes like a year or two to feel confident in the position.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm still right there. This is the start of the 4th month as a counselor, and biggest piece I think is to build just. As you've mentioned many times, I think you would find that your experience building relationships with others and having dialogue and getting to know folks is going to really serve you well, because if you are selected, because that has been for me a central part of this work, is building those relationships, learning the trust with the staff who are incredible, and all the amazing organizations, MRSC, AWC, the list goes on. Yes, so just stay curious and build relationships.
And definitely don't be afraid to ask questions. I've been on the council the longest, and I still have to ask staff questions over and over on things that have a hard time either understanding or don't know. So definitely don't be afraid to say I don't know and ask questions.
I would just add to what Harmony said, that, we have those resources, the MRSC, which I can't remember what that stands for, but the Association of Washington Cities also are great places for us when, it's what other cities are doing in Washington State, and helps us stay kind of we don't fall outside of the laws too. So know what you get sued for, and, those kinds of things.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No thanks. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time.
You.
Does council want a few minutes, or do we want to move on to the next applicant?
Probably should give until 4:30. Is the next applicant here?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess we should go.
I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, 3 minutes.
All right, our next candidate is Ronald Fairclough. So the microphone in front of you is turned on, so just please speak clearly into the microphone, and there'll be a timer set, or the timer is set for 30 minutes on the screen in front of you.
Okay.
And You might want to pull that closer to you, the microphone. So
The
you can-
micro, oh, can I just pull this way? Oh, okay.
Yep, there we go.
Gotcha. Okay, I can hear my own voice now. Okay.
All right, Mr. Fairclough, what is your vision for this role and how would you operationalize your vision?
The thing that I want to work on the most is housing. When I first came to Sequim, we had just a little neighborhood that went more or less from Sequim Avenue over to Brown, and we had a very good mix of people, rich and poor, young, young and old, and everything. Okay, well, some of the things I think that are wrong with developing just plain low-income housing is not what I would like to see. I would like to see more development based on community and having a community. When I was a young man, Seattle broke up areas into communities, and then they built some low-income housing, which was originally just scheduled for the senior people that where they're kind of losing their homes and that deal. But eventually, it ended up filled up with a lot of people from outside the country, especially Mexican people. So it kind of fell apart. But I think if we work at it, that we could have a kind of a housing situation that will accommodate young and poor, and rich and old, all in a community kind of situation. If you ever watched the movies like the Waltons and all that stuff, I don't see why we can't develop that. But I think we miss out when we start building a whole bunch of low-income housing. And I'd like to see where some of the young people maybe remodel a house or something, a house that maybe is starting to get run down. So I'd like to provide some sort of facilities and legal circumstances for that. So that people could improve their neighborhoods and make the neighborhood more full. That's kind of what my aim and course is. Now, my background is when I was in 1947, I turned basically 9 years old. But in the beginning of that summer, I built a tree house. And then when I was in the treehouse, I used to dream of being an architect. And I kind of studied to be an architect until I was 20. But then the church that I belonged to started to build what we called a stake center. And then they hired an architect, and I've told him what my dreams were and what I was working on, because I'd studied drafting and schooling and art and all kinds of stuff to be an architect. But he kind of cautioned me. He says, well, I don't think you really want to be an architect because you really won't start to make money until you get in your 40s. That's what he told me. And this was just before back then we had the draft. And so I had to go into the military, and I went into the military. And then I came back, and then I had a great job because while I was in the military, I got a security clearance, and I came back and I'd signed up to be a model maker. And so I got to go to work at Boeing's as a model maker, partly because I already had the security clearance. But while I was at Boeing's, I decided I wanted to be an industrial designer. And at the University of Washington, they had an instructor there. So I studied more art and design on things, even had special courses in welding at college, and all that stuff. So anyway, but then I started the course out, and then we had that big layoff in Boeing's in 1970. And just prior to that, the instructor that would qualify us to be industrial designers left. So, and then we had the big layoff. And so then that's when I went to school to become a dental technician. And then practically before I finished the course, I met up Dr. Lang. They talked me into moving here to come to Sequim, which I had already fallen in love with Sequim way back in 1956. because I came through with my friend, and so I'd fall in love with Sequim. And so anyway, I came to Sequim, and then it wasn't too long, and I built my dental lab, and I had that going, and then, you know, things kind of went downhill, partly because the dental tech deal has kind of gone downhill. Everything's gone digital. So, you know, so I wasn't able to really sell my lab as a dental lab per se, but I still could do prosthetic work. So I was trying to convert my lab over to doing prosthetics work and everything. And then I ended up with what I call a bunch of ding-dongs on my property. Then I struggled with that starting in about 2014. And I just struggled with having all the ding-dongs coming on my property, stealing my stuff. They even stole my compressor off its big compressing tank and stuff. And so I had to struggle with that until finally my place got burned down.
Oh.
And of course, I believe your police department knows who set it on fire, but that's another story.
Mr. Fairclough, I want to make sure you have enough time to answer all the questions. I'll let
So,
you
okay,
finish.
you
and
can
then
ask me some more questions.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Ronald, for your sharing your story. Number 2 is, are there any issue areas that you are particularly passionate about? You touched on housing in question 1. Is there another area that you're particularly passionate about?
Well, I do care about, because I'm getting old, I do care about the older people. I want to see things get a little better for them. And the place where I'm staying now is Sinclair Place, and it's, you know, we've probably had, in the last half year, we've had about 6 people die there. So it's kind of a strange situation, but I do want to see things get better for the seniors. That's, you know, and of course I am getting old too, but actually I'm a little more active than most of them. So I just have to deal with that.
Alrighty, next question. How do you provide guidance, foster creativity, welcome opposing viewpoints, and open dialogue?
Come again on that? How do I provide?
How do you provide guidance, foster creativity, welcome opposing viewpoints, and open dialogue?
Well, I like to listen to people. And if you've even noticed what I'm doing over there at Sinclair Place, but I like to listen to the young people. I really like to, and then one of the ideas I have is that we should set up like a Sims, about 4 or 5 Sims games. And I would encourage the young people to you know, do the Sims game, design things, put things the way they'd like them to be. And then I would have one section of our city council, more or less, one person that would be in charge of reviewing all these different sim games, so the council could get some ideas of more of what the young people are wanting. Not I like the people that are more native to Sequim. I don't like it where we get people from California and then come and telling us what to do. I believe we should get the information from our local people, and especially those that have lived in a long time, like Vicky. You know, Vicky was born here, weren't you? So that's what I'd like to see. I want to see, you know, the people that have been here for a long time, that, you know, kind of encouraging what the town's going to be and how it's going to grow.
Hello. What legislative advocacy experience will you bring to the Sequim City Council? How would you leverage this experience to foster growth and relationship building with legislators?
Well, that's an interesting thing, because I actually was Science Club president in high school for 2 years. So I understand the meetings. And then when I went into the military, back then, when I first went in the military, I thought I was going to be a Democrat. But then after I went in there, I changed my leanings, and I lean much more to being a libertarian. So I would work, but I would work with the people that are in control, to do legislation, to give them my ideas. I am a little bit slanted, I admit, but because I lean more towards what libertarians want. But that's what you do. That's what politics is about, right? Yeah.
Okay, please take a few minutes to introduce yourself to us. You've already given us quite a bit of history. We're interested in hearing highlights of your experience relevant to the position and why you're interested in being a Sequim City Council member.
Well, I've came to a lot of the council meetings. I know how it kind of functions, and the different ads and the way things happened. I have a slanted opinion about the way things happened, because I believe that we should have built a different kind of city hall. I believe we should have built patterned after the John Deere headquarters building, where we built over the top of Seal Street, not on top of it, but over the top of it. And I feel, and then that kind of development, it's just rusted steel and green glass. And we could add, we could have built a small unit and then kept adding on to it. And we could go clear down to Alder and maybe clear back up to Washington with that kind of structure where you could still drive underneath the buildings. You're not messing up the road traffic, and we could spread the leadership of the town that way. I really believe in that kind of a system. And it's not impossible now. We can still do it. But that's what my goal would be, is to get people educated and understand that construction of that building, that John Deere headquarters building. We are on the edge of a fault line, so that building, that kind of design, that building, it's basically on stilts. So if we did have much of an earthquake here, it's kind of designed to weather that. Now this tin building we're in, I don't know how well it would weather. I didn't get into the details how well it would weather an earthquake here, but I know that the John Deere building is designed to handle that.
Thank you.
All right. Based on what you know of this position, what skills or qualities do you believe are needed for someone to be successful in this role?
Well, to be successful, I believe you just have to be a good listener. And to be a good listener, you got to not have a lot of prejudice, pre-thoughts. You got to listen to people and, gather the whole picture of what they're trying to say to you. That makes sense?
Thank you. Question number 7 is, strong relationships are a key element of success. Can you give us an example of an experience that will demonstrate your ability to create, develop, and maintain successful partnerships and relations? What were the key components of your success?
Well, I've had some success in developing my lab. I actually have trained about, I would say, almost 4 people. But then, of course, they wanted to move on. The last guy that I trained, that I was hoping that he would take over my business, he went back to Seattle because his brothers had a band over there. And so, but we were close, and I was hoping to have more people come along and follow in my footsteps. But the thing is, things have changed, and now everything's going digital, and so we have to think a little different.
What issues are our city facing now?
What issues are what?
Sorry, I talk really fast. Okay. What issues are our city facing now?
What are they facing now? I would say the big thing is the housing. That's the biggest thing that we're facing. And then the fact that we do have, we're growing. We have a pretty heavy, I mean, I guess people are lined up to get contractors to build houses. So that's another area that's a big issue for us. Yeah.
How do you ensure that your decisions align with our organizational goals and objectives? Can you provide an example of a decision that you made directly contributing to achieving these goals?
Well, I let the city get my property at a very low price. And, I could have fought that, big time. But I just figured that the city needed to move on.
All right, so we got to ask you questions. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, the main questions is, the things I like to know is just more, I know that you grew up here, but I don't know everybody else's status of why they're in the council. But that's the things that I would like to know more of each individual, of where they came from and why they are here and what they want to do. Yeah.
Literally, would you like to know? Ronald,
Pardon?
literally, would you like to know that?
Sure. You can tell me if you want. Yes. You tell me your background.
I moved here to retire, and I moved here from Ohio, 36 years in Ohio.
I was born in Port Angeles because Sequim didn't have a hospital, but I've been here pretty much my whole life. It took a couple years in my very young adulthood to be around like Port Orchard and Bremerton and Tacoma area, but moved back with my husband, and now we've got 3 kids, so we're raising our own babies here. A lot of my dad's family is Lower Elwha Clallam, so they kind of migrated this way. And I would say I'm on council to just really have a voice for the low income community and just try and bring everybody together.
May I ask, do you have a little bit of Indian?
Yeah.
Blood? Yeah, okay.
Thank you for the question, Ronald. My name's Harmony. I grew up in Silverdale and Bremerton, and then went to PLU in Tacoma. Then went to Oregon for a little while, and then came back because I missed home. And my family lives a lot of them live here in about 2 hours of the Seattle area. And I love living here with my sweetheart and our 2 kids. It's so surreal to raise our children right here where I came as a Girl Scout to Hurricane Ridge and doing all sorts of fun things at the Spit. So yeah, it's amazing to live here on the Olympic Peninsula. I really consider myself very lucky. I'm on council because I love because I feel so strongly about this area's beautiful natural resources. I want to be a voice for making sure our city prioritizes eco-friendly choices and sustainable development, and to make sure that we are providing a space for everyone to be able to afford to live here. That's a big concern of mine. So I'm definitely resonating with a lot of my counselors on that. Thank you.
So I moved here about 26 years ago. My dad got a job at the Elwha Dam. So I graduated from Sequim High School. And the only time I left was to join the military for a few years. So then come back. So the reason I chose council is while we're expecting our first child, we've done quite a bit of foster care, but continuing to ensure that young families, well, anybody in general, can continue to have the quality of life that Sequim is known for, ensuring things that are fundamental to government continues to happen, safety, parks, roads, things like that continue to get done. And that's what makes Sequim a desirable place to live.
Thank you. Yeah, I like I mentioned briefly, I discovered Sequim basically in 1956. That was between my junior and senior year, and I came through with another friend, and we went totally clockwise, and we actually passed up Port Angeles because we thought it was kind of trashy. And we thought we could come down the road a little further and get us a hamburger. But we pulled into the Chevron station here in Sequim about 20 minutes after 2. And we asked the attendant, "Oh, is there some place where we can get a hamburger?" And he said, "Well, the Sunshine Cafe closed about 2 o'clock. And he said, "I don't know." And he says, "Well, maybe you could go out to the Three Crabs." So he told us how to get out to the Three Crabs. And we went out there, and the Three Crabs had only been there a couple years. And Ernie Marsha was there. He's a big, tall guy. And we said, "Could we get a hamburger?" And then Martha was one of the Three Crabs. She says, "Oh, we don't have any lettuce." Well, heck, we were used to having a hamburger with a pickle on. That's, Dick's Drive-In in Seattle. That's what we were used to. That's all we were looking for. But anyway, she made us a beautiful hamburger, but she didn't have any lettuce, so she gave us some coleslaw. And we finished off our hamburger deal with the coleslaw.
We were
And
just
then
talking
later,
about that
we
coleslaw
found
recipe
out-
last night at dinner.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
I know somebody who has it.
But anyway, we found out later that coleslaw was famous. The Martha and the lady that owned Doopy's, they were competing with each other, and all the community was talking about who had the best coleslaw. And anyway, and then also what was out there at that time, they still had a wooden bridge going across the river. And so that was another draw to me why I wanted to come to over here to the peninsula, was that wooden bridge. Because then they tore it down, in 1963 or something. That was just too late for me. I was just getting out of the service then. Yeah. Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone need a couple minutes, or?
I don't think so. Well, I don't see our last interview person.
Okay.
So
We'll be at recess for.
perhaps they're just not here yet. They were counting on being here at 5. So
We'll be at recess then till 5.
that sounds good.
Okay, I'm going to call us back to order. Mr. Fane, do you need any sort of instructions? You know how to use the.
Oh, I see my buttons turned
Yeah.
on.
So we're just going to go. Yeah.
I'll keep it close to my face.
Yeah, we'll just go down the list here and ask you the questions. So,
Sure.
all right. Number one, what is your vision for this role, and how would you operationalize your vision?
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm glad you've received my letter. That this is a beautiful opportunity. It's a gift to some deserving person to be able to try out being on the city council for a year and a half without having to start with a very complicated campaign as their first time. So, and to summarize it very briefly, here in my 70s, I think more like a grandfather all the time, and I see everyone kind of as children and grandchildren, and I wish the best for them, because they are the legacy. Not and all I can. My goal in life is to help others younger than myself have the best life they can possibly have. So, well, one role I would have would be as an advocate for low-income people, to see how the city can better serve its native-born residents, young adults, young families, and seniors on a fixed income. I'm concerned that how the city funds itself is not taking care of these groups. Like, for instance, one thing, why are there impact fees on new housing to maintain parks? That might have been the only way 10 years ago to get the parks built, but now it's just one more factor impeding affordable housing. Even looking at our monthly water bills, it's usually $90-something. Well, if you look closely on it, what each household actually pays for water is only a few dollars of that. The rest being a high base rate and high base rate sewer rate, making there be no way for a low income person to economize. The same holds true for PUD electric bills, though I know that's outside of the city's domain. I applaud the city's, it's the county project, the low income and senior property tax exemptions as a step in the right direction. So I see that as an advocate because I am in that situation where, my lifetime was more one of service than creating monetary gain for myself. So a very great deal of our monthly income for my wife and I retired is our Social Security. So I can sympathize and feel, I'm in the same boat as so many residents. Two, issues that I'm particularly passionate about. Well, sorry, excuse me.
It's quite all right. We're gonna.
Oh, good.
You're doing great. I love how you're just like, I'm ready to just keep it rolling along. We're gonna pose the questions.
Okay, sure.
No worries.
I just wanted to be prepared.
That's okay. And to be fair, yeah, we just didn't put that into the opening statement there. So hello, thank you for answering question 1. Question 2. Are there any issue areas that you are particularly passionate about?
Yes, and here this one's a problem because I'm passionate about a lot. I'm concerned that there's very little trickle down from the influx of relatively wealthy retirees buying high-end houses, but spending little and contributing little to Sequim and its schools, apart from property tax and sales tax. And they usually just spend most of that money at the big box stores. There are so many, way too many projects awaiting funding in the capital improvement program and transportation improvement plan for the next 6 years that just can't get funded. Where is this going to come from? I know there's about 4 or 5 underway out of 45 something in transportation improvement program. And I happen to live on one of the most dangerous roads in Sequim, on West Sequim Bay Road. And I don't see any possibility in sight for that getting fixed anytime soon. I consider West Sequim Bay Road a major accident waiting to happen. And we just had a close call with the out-of-control driver going off the poorly marked and lit curve at the junction with East Washington Street. The lack of sidewalks, bike lanes, etc., is compounded by pedestrians not wearing high visibility clothing and reflectors in early morning or evening when going to or from Carrie Blake Park. And it's dangerous around Little Explorers Preschool, compounded by an intersection and a strip of mailboxes on a main artery. There also has been no solution to a crosswalk at the junction of West Sequim Bay Road and East Washington Street. This is just one sample of how development at the east end of town for wealthy new subdivisions is not being balanced by increased transportation infrastructure. And it's creating traffic bottlenecks and high traffic in places that aren't prepared for it. We've got, and another point, we've got to have a plan of how to attract small high-tech companies or offshoring offices to give something to retain our graduating young people and bring family-supporting jobs to the city outside of the present medical and retail opportunities. I'm also concerned that there are limits on growth due to an expanding senior population, but no specialized emergency cardio care in the Upper Peninsula. Already, Fire District 3 is overwhelmed with, 24/7, 365 911 calls by seniors having health emergencies. And many people, towards the end of your life, this becomes more frequent, sometimes every couple days or a few at a day. And well, I'll continue on. And one of the commissioners that I'm friends with has stated that no senior with cardio problems should be living on this side of the Hood Canal Bridge. So I have a son who may be able to help in that he's going to switch from FedEx, flying everyone's Amazon things into Port Angeles from SeaTac to maybe flying for Life Flight if they accept him. But should we have to be dependent on Life Flight to get us to Silverdale or Harborview in the cardiac thing? Also, I believe water supply is going to be an issue. The off-channel reservoir is going to just be a drop in the bucket in the supply end, in supply as the end of summer water situation with premature snow melt that continues to draw down the Dungeness flows at spawning time. Even a sample of how climate change impacts are happening around the world. Maybe you saw the floods just happening in Russia right now because the snow in the Ural Mountains had a massive melt from an out-of-season heat wave, and they are underwater. The same thing has happened in so many places in Pakistan and other places. And so we shouldn't think that we're going to be exempt from these sort of problems. Already the Silberhorn wells are being drilled deeper. Think ahead to 2045, which was the end goal of our redone comprehensive plan 2025 to 2045. How responsible is even 3% annual growth? The irrigation districts were set up to supply farmers and dairies. Yet new developments are using that irrigation water for lawns. Clearly, this is not sustainable in the long term, and more low input and native vegetation is going to have to become the norm by code eventually. Why not now? Also, something I'm no expert in this, and you counselors would be more up to speed. Also, pesticide and herbicide use from the city should be looked into to know what are we exposing our children and wildlife to. And there could be a lot of natural ways to remediate the need for that, especially with native plantings. That's some of the things I'm passionate on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was writing a little slow. Can you go back over again what your concerns were with the East Squim Bay Road again?
Oh yes.
West Squim Bay Road.
West Squim Bay Road.
Okay.
Yes. Well, it's basically a farm road that's had a lot of subdivisions added to each side of it. And so every time someone from even as far as John Wayne Marina, or even the 100 or so people living in the RV park at John Wayne Marina, to Mariner's Outlook, phase 1, 2, and 3. And then you have Cedar Ridge, then you have Elk Ridge, you've got the Fairweather, you've got Sunny Meadows on this. You've got just one subdivision after another. You don't see the number of houses because it's just one entrance for each one, adding up to a lot of traffic. If they want to go to town, they're going to drive the whole length of West Sequim Bay Road and enter Washington Street at a very angular kind of awkward, after a curve to the left, you then have to do a hard right. And the problem with West Sequim Bay Road is it's been haphazard when these subdivisions have actually created their ADA standard pathway along West Sequim Bay Road. There's absolutely no shoulder at all near Little Explorers preschool, which is where Rutherford Road crosses West Sequim Bay Road. If you're I have seen seniors with crutches walking down the middle of the oncoming traffic lane as a way to get to town. There's a lot of in my neighborhood. We have a person who's legally blind or more so, who walks up West Sequim Bay Road, no shoulder. You've got to walk in bushes by the railroad B&B if you don't want to risk getting hit. And my wife meets up with her girlfriends, and they have to do this area. Anyway, the subdivisions, some have our particular Fairweather one, the performance bond to create that thing was signed off on as completed when there's just a little bit of gravel through weeds.
I want to make sure you have enough time for the rest of the questions, but
Sorry.
you mentioned something that you wanted at that corner intersection.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I write it
Yes.
down.
So now there's a crosswalk where Rutherford Road crosses West Sequim Bay Road at the intersection where the Little Explorers preschool is on one side. And that's real necessary as for the ODT bike trail. There's a lot of bike and pedestrians crossing there. But as you go up closer, there's sort of a triangular on the left unused lot where you see children sometimes from the Mennonite small school playing there. And on the right side, it's Blake Stone. It's privately owned land there. It curves to the left, and there's no crosswalk up there. There's no safe way to walk from any of the developments on West Sequim Bay Road to walk to QFC, which people do a lot. And also, I see young people commuting by walking to their work jobs every morning and coming back in the evening on that same thing. And there's no sidewalk at all farther than.
Thank you.
And there's no way to safely cross at West. It's just, the design hasn't kept up with the times.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next question. How do you provide guidance, foster creativity, welcome opposing viewpoints, and open dialogue?
Oh, well, I love open dialogue, and I wish there were more forums for just that. I'm an administrator on a Facebook forum for dialogue, I guess, in the political sphere, and there's more need for a community forum like that. Unfortunately, in this day and age, something like Nextdoor fails in its message because it pretty much brings out the worst in people. Whereas I think the very best way for people to have dialogue is face to face, and or sharing a meal or inviting people to your house, which we do as often as we can. that would be a great thing to develop. Well, in our little neighborhood, 6 years ago we came from Minnesota, and there it's a tradition. You not only snow blow all the driveways of all the widows and people in town, but there's a national night out where you all share a potluck meal in the middle of the street, which is blocked off. And we've also had progressive dinners where you go from one house to another for each course. And then also, and we were trying to do this in our own little HOA, which is just 44 little duplexes, really small duplexes, almost each with, well, I'd say a third of them are widows, aged widows, and retired couples. We've got a couple of young families, and oh gosh, where was I going on that? Oh, but having a they loved it so much. The first one we did, they want more in the year, and also we try to have things on New Year's Eve so people don't drink and drive, and a good chance to build community. So we're trying those things, and we started a weekly card game for all the women, and say if you're 85 and alone and everything, it just brings you to life to have the joy to be in a group and with friends and kind of break the ice with your neighbors and develop close friendships. And now we kind of look after each other, and if someone's in a problem, they call on one another. I do all kinds of handyman stuff all around. And also get called in the middle of the night sometimes to pick someone off the floor who's elderly and has fallen, or get help, and we water each other's gardens when we're away and things like that. So we're really enjoying this phase of our lives when we're not so preoccupied with work, where we can try to bring some of the best that we've had the privilege to experience elsewhere in the country to our little microcosm.
Mr. Fane, we have several more questions, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
May I ask you, what legislative advocacy experience will you bring to the Sequim City Council? How would you leverage this experience to foster growth and relationship building with legislators?
Okay. Well, I've helped organize countless drives to provide input at Olympia on important bills. Just off the top of my head, the rent control cap, protections for mobile homeowners, capital gains tax on the ultra wealthy, and then at the federal level, protection of Medicare and reproductive rights healthcare for women. A close connection to our state senator and reps in Olympia, as well as our U.S. senators and our soon-to-be new CD Congressional District 6 congressman, is an environment I'm always in, political, and I'm already building relationships with candidates running for these posts in this summer's primary and the November general election. Sequim needs to be the mouse that roars to have our voice heard, and it has happened even nationally in recent years. I'm glad to have been a part of that.
Thank you. You've already told us a bit about yourself. Is there anything you want to add? And then can you tell us why you're interested in being a Sequim City Council person?
Okay. Well, I'm a father of 6 and a grandparent of 11. About a third of which are overseas. I've got children in Norway, the Czech Republic, and France, but actually now in Israel. And my father was a underwater demolition team commander in the Navy. So I was born in a Navy household and had a chance to travel as a young child, which impacted my life big time. My father was an immigrant who came over. He was 3 years old from Scotland. His with a single mother, growing up in tough part of Boston and working his way up in the Merchant Marine from 15 and learning everything himself in especially an underwater thing. He was the first guy to bring the aqualung back to the States, demo for the Pentagon. He had the world diving record, following plane crash retrieval things and all the rest. He learned it by doing it, and he never asked anybody to do something he hadn't done as a commander. And I've had a life somewhat similar. Actually, I grew up without him after my first 7 years, and when I left high school, I jumped right into the world of graphic arts and printing at the time, which became a lifelong career, both overseas and back in this country. My forte has always been sticking to a job, learning and researching as much as I can, and giving attention to detail. My guiding principle is to never pass on a work project to the next step per person unless it's in the shape I would want to be in on the receiving end. Putting myself in the shoes of the recipient and the simple golden rule of doing to others as we would want to be treated ourselves.
Thank you.
That's a little bit on me.
Thank you.
All right, based on what you know of this position, what skills or qualities do you believe are needed for someone to be successful in this role?
Well, besides the attention to detail and doing research, the most important thing for success in this role is collaboration, respect for our colleagues, respect and appreciation of city staff as the foundation. I admire my colleagues on the Planning Commission, and I really enjoy the diversity and depth of thought that each brings from their own unique perspectives. And I have so much to learn from each colleague. And I feel I've been really blessed to be amongst so many what are now close friends. And I would hope that anyone that joins the City Council would feel part of the family of the city, wonderful city staff here, and with one another.
Thank you, Alex. Next question. Strong relationships are a key element of success. Can you give us an example of an experience that will demonstrate your ability to create, develop, and maintain successful partnerships and relations? What were the key components of your success?
Okay, in my publishing career, especially the final 20 years, seeing myself as a servant to the others to help them do their best was my guiding light. I had to crack the whip on 20 editors on how they processed and worked on manuscript and kept the coding in that was necessary, for all the files to work and jive for typesetting at the end. And being there to serve them, to help them, I enjoy troubleshooting and solving problems with them, made it really easy for us to work together as a team and for them to feel free to ask for help when they needed it, even though sometimes I had to be a tough taskmaster at the same time. But I always to do it with kindness and a tact, and I would do it mostly by written communications, and I've learned to I always pray for patience and a loving spirit, and some sympathy. We were a very tight team of about 50 people. And also, I've got the gift, maybe when I was overseas, I was communicating with a lot of people long distance, and including my wife that I proposed to through the mail from Japan, and she was in England. And we wrote back and forth a couple of years before I proposed to her, and she accepted by a fax. So the communication at a distance has also been a theme at my life, even as it is now with children and grandchildren overseas. I got a call at 6 this morning from Tel Aviv from my grandson, say, hey, when are you coming to see me or whatever, Wow, what a time, So, so the strong relationships by it works best if I start off seeing how I can help the other person, and I'm there to serve them, help them do their best. That seems to work really well. And also with my collaborators on the Facebook page that I administrate, that's worked pretty well too.
So you only have a few minutes left. So this is probably going to be our last question. Maybe. What issues are our city facing now?
Okay. Well, it's in a wonderful position that its problem is how to manage and cope with growth, funding of infrastructure, funding of schools, and creating local opportunities in the workplace to retain our graduating students. And of course, affordable housing of almost all already mentioned. Those they're all big challenges. They're big challenges in every city in the country and also around the world. An apartment in Jerusalem costs $1 million. It didn't used to be like this. When I was in Minnesota, gosh, a house was $5,000 in as recently as 1960, and now that same house would be $250,000. There's going to be no easy answers to all of this, and at least we're all aware of the problem. We see our meetings packed with our residents in mobile home parks, afraid they're going to lose their shelter at any moment, and with every rent increase being squeezed tighter to be afford food and pay utilities. I'm grateful we all are aware of these challenges and that we're all working together on them and pretty much doing as much as we can at every decision we make. So I could give a stab for a few seconds at the last question. Okay. Yeah. Decisions. How do we ensure that our decisions align with our organizational goals and objectives? Examples of decisions we made that went to achieving those goals. Well, in the limited time it had been, Planning Commission, I'm glad we did something for mobile food vending to allow multiplexed housings to create more affordable housing, and that we were able to remove impediments for something like the Habitat and Humanity Project. Well,
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That will end the special meeting and will be adjourned until 6 o'clock when our normally scheduled meeting will take place. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting. Go ahead and call this meeting, the Sequim City Council, to order. Before we get started, though, I just would like to note that in continuing allowing each of you that wish to play the role of presiding officer. Rachel has stated her desire to be the presiding officer this meeting, so if there's anybody against that, let me know. Otherwise, I will turn the meeting over to Councilor Anderson.
And it is something that I really highly recommend just for the experience of it. That way you get to be in the hot seat.
All right, proceed.
All righty. So I will, did you already call it to order? I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. So we will start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. All right, thank you so much. City Clerk, if we could do roll call, please.
Counselor Kathy Downer,
Here.
Counselor Dan Butler,
Here.
Counselor Vicky Lowe,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson,
Present.
Mayor Brandon Janice,
Present.
and Counselor Harmony Rutter.
Present.
Did we do Dan? Yeah, okay. All right, I'm just hearing things then apparently. Are you sure you're here? No, okay, okay. All right. Does anybody have any changes to the final agenda? Not seeing any. Could we get a motion to approve the final agenda, please? Awesome. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Thank you so much. Anybody oppose? All righty, thank you. And we will now move on to ceremonial, and Brandon will read that proclamation as mayor.
All right, this proclamation is for National Animal Therapy Day. And this proclamation reads, there are thousands of pet partner therapy animal teams serving in communities across the United States. And whereas Pet Partners has designated April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day, and whereas scientific research shows that interacting with therapy animals can reduce stress, relieve depression, slow heart rate, lower blood pressure, and strengthen the immune system. And whereas therapy animal teams in the town of Sequim play an essential role in improving human health and well-being through the human-animal bond. And whereas therapy animal teams interact with a variety of people in our community, including veterans, seniors, patients, students, and those approaching end of life. And whereas these exceptional therapy animals who partner with their human companions bring comfort and healing to those in need. And whereas we encourage more pet owners to consider becoming pet partner volunteers to help our community by creating greater access to meaningful therapy animal visits. Now, therefore, I, Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, do hereby proclaim April 30th, 2024 as National Therapy Animal Day in the City of Sequim and encourage our citizens to celebrate our therapy animals and their human handlers. And furthermore, I publicly salute the service of therapy animal teams in our community and communities nationwide. Signed on this 8th day of April, 2024, Brandon Janice, Mayor. And I would like to invite Ms. Northam up to say a few words.
Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of the City Council, and fellow citizens of Sequim. I am deeply honored and grateful to stand before you today as we commemorate a significant occasion, the proclamation of April 30th as National Therapy Animal Day in our beloved city of Sequim. Therapy animals hold a special place in our hearts, providing comfort, support, and healing to countless individuals in our community and beyond. Their unconditional love and gentle presence have the power to uplift spirits, ease burdens, and bring joy to those who need it most. By officially recognizing National Therapy Animal Day, Sequim exemplifies its commitment to compassion, empathy, and the well-being of all of its residents. This proclamation serves as a testament to the profound impact therapy animals have on our lives and the importance of their role in promoting mental health and emotional wellness. I want to express my deep gratitude to the Sequim City Council for their support in adopting this proclamation. Thank you. Your dedication to recognizing the contributions of therapy animals demonstrates our community's collective empathy and understanding. As we celebrate National Therapy Animal Day on April 30th, let us not only honor the remarkable work of therapy animals, but also reflect on the power of kindness and connection in fostering a more compassionate society. Thank you once again for this meaningful proclamation. I'm truly humbled to accept it on behalf of all therapy animals and their dedicated handlers in Sequim. Thank you.
All right, I have a comment, but I don't know if other council members had anything to say in honor of the proclamation. Harmony, yeah.
I was shopping with my family at the grocery store today, and a gentleman had a small dog perched in his arms there, and my children just immediately gravitated toward the dog, and then I saw them just like immediately they like started petting the dog, and I was like, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And he was like, no, it's okay. It's my service animal, but you know, part of that service is bringing joy to others. And so, yeah, a very, serendipitous experience, connection on this day. So thank you for bringing this proclamation to our city. Amen.
So the timing of this proclamation, it's uncanny. We've had our cat for 14 years, and he's not certified or registered or anything as a therapy animal, but the amount of emotional support that this cat has just helped us through everything, our entire family. He has an aggressive cancer, and he's being put down tomorrow. And I am just so thankful that we have animals to sometimes just get through the day, really. And so I'm very thankful for this proclamation. Thank you. I forgot I'm running the show. All right, so thank you. Thank you for being here to accept the proclamation. And now we will move on to public comment. City Clerk, is there anyone signed up for public comment?
Yeah. The public comment sheet will be collected for those attending in person. Comments will be taken every other one from those attending virtually, by phone, or in person. For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. For those attending virtually or by phone, if you would like to provide public comment, please now press the raise your hand icon, or if on the phone, press *9. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes will be permitted to provide comment. Please state your name and if you are representing an organization. Again, for those of you virtual or on the phone, please now press the raise your hand icon or *9. Anthony, will you please start us off with a virtual attendee?
We have no virtual hands raised at this time.
It looks like John Worthington, but I don't see him present. And Amy and Mike Connolly, do you still want to speak? Sure. That concludes public comment.
All right, thank you so much. Moving on to the consent agenda. City Clerk, could you please read the consent agenda?
Claim vouchers totaling $1,242,871.34. The City Council meeting minutes from the March 25th, 2024 meeting. Kitsap Critical Incident Response Team Interlocal Agreement, the Interlocal Agreement for Hazard Mitigation Plan, Sequim Municipal Code 3.68, Rates and Fees Reorganization and Ordinance, Sequim Municipal Code 8.24, Hazardous Activities and Ordinance, Arts Commission appointments, the City Manager post evaluation, and a letter of support for the Joint Public Safety Emergency Operations Center.
All right, thank you so much. Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll
second it.
Take it, Kathy.
So Kathy seconded. Any opposed? All righty, seeing none, I will move forward to general business. And 8A, under general business, we have interim controls ordinance regarding chapter 17.32.110, 2 access points required. This is a public hearing.
I need to read the instructions for public comment.
Okay, first, should I read this? I've never done a public hearing before, sorry. Do I read this part first though?
Yes.
Okay. Before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read the comment instructions.
Soon the mayor, deputy mayor, will open the public comment hearing and take comments from people attending virtually and in person. If you are in person and would like to provide public comment, please sign in on the public hearing sign-in sheet. If you are attending virtually via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please press the raise your hand icon. Or if you are on the phone, press *9 when the deputy mayor asks for comments. Then when the last 4 digits of your phone number are called out at the appropriate time, unmute your audio by dialing *6. Then state your name and city or county of residence. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and there will be a timer visible on the screen. Please avoid comments not related to the subject of the hearing. Participants will be disconnected after speaking. Again, please raise your hand or press *9 when the mayor calls for public comments.
All righty. The subject of this public hearing is the interim controls ordinance regarding SMC chapter 17.32.110, known as 2 access points required. The public hearing is now open. Does the city manager or staff have testimony to present?
I believe Charisse is here from the Department of Community and Economic Development. Thank you, Charisse.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick presentation. This is a request for an extension of an interim controls for another 6 months in regards to 2 access points, as you mentioned. It's intended to regulate the access requirements for subdivisions of various sizes to meet street design standards. The section of code is intended to provide for public safety, fire safety, and appropriate connectivity for the city's street grid. The SMC language has been insufficiently clear to achieve the purpose, resulting in confusion and miscommunication by developers and staff. Staff are concerned that the confusion could lead to excessive costs for the developers and potentially litigation for the city if not addressed. Over the last few months, the city has been working with our transportation consultant Transpo Group to do an evaluation of connectivity as it relates to transportation master plan goals and the comprehensive plan goals. They've given a memo to the Planning Commission to evaluate with recommendations that relate to different types of connectivity criteria that they could consider. And the Planning Commission has started kind of looking at that and thinking about different code amendments that could occur. So right now, we're in the process of evaluating that. We anticipate that there would be code language coming to them with different options to make a recommendation to you related to that criteria. The work program that needs to be adopted is also provided in the staff report tonight, and I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any, yes, Kathy, question?
If you're talking about the split, the 2 access points in this ordinance, I do have some concerns.
Okay.
I discussed it with a fireman at the District 3 fire department.
Okay.
And apparently our old ordinance said housing tracts or housing developments with fewer than 4 houses can have 1 access point. Now the suggested change is 30 then fewer houses. And I don't know that that's safe if there's only 1 way in and 1 way out. And we have a large housing development already in Sequim where there's 2 exits, but they're locked. So there's only 1 entrance and exit.
Part of the work that is being considered by Transpo Group and what they've proposed to us is, what are different ways that you can evaluate connectivity? So one of them being trips generated, and considering that the state legislature made some changes regarding lots and how many units can be on a lot, you might be wanting to look at connectivity in a different way and evaluating that criteria. So one of the suggestions that the Planning Commission was interested in them exploring more was how many trips are going to be generated by the type of development that you have. So you might want to see more connection points when you're evaluating the type of land use changes that you'll have through the updated comprehensive plan.
I'm not worried about connectivity other than emergency vehicles.
Okay.
That's a concern for me, that if there's only 1 way in and 1 way out.
Okay.
Only because of this one subdivision already exists, a large subdivision where the 2 exits are locked.
I will tell you, we will make sure that we meet any fire code safety standards. Of
Great.
course, that's one of the primary, reasons for looking at that, is we want to make sure we meet safety standards. But and I'll make note of this and make sure that the Planning Commission also knows that that's a concern.
Okay, but I want to clarify, it's not a concern with the fire person I spoke with. He didn't say either way. It's just a concern with me.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the interim controls ordinance is just a temporary thing while things are worked out in the direction of a more permanent. Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm hoping that helps ease some concerns that it'll be talked about, I'm sure, in, all the discussions and everything surrounding the 2 points of access. So hopefully that helps you.
It means they can build 1 less house, but that's not my concern. My concern is getting fire trucks in and out. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think I have one. Is there an estimated timeline on when a permanent ordinance would be brought back?
Yeah, so in the staff report, there's a work program that is provided to you. It can go through September and October, but put it together to give you ranges of evaluation. So, if they're all on board and you're all on board and this is the language you want, it could be earlier, could be, early summer. If it's where you want to evaluate a little bit more and takes the time, it's probably closer to September or October.
Cool. And I think this could be just a really great opportunity to quickly remind anybody listening that the materials in the agenda packet are online for you to see also. So anything that we see in the packet, you are able to see, and you can email with questions or concerns, anything. All right. Thank you so much, Shreese.
Thank you.
All right. Last call for questions from council. Going once, going twice. Okay. We will now move on to public comment. This is a public hearing. All audience members wishing to make comment will be allotted 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, your address, and whether you reside within city limits of Sequim. Please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the council. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
No one has signed up in person. Anthony, is there anyone online?
No raised hands online.
No public comment.
All right. I will now close the public comment portion of the hearing. Is there any council discussion? All right, I'm not seeing any. The public hearing is now closed, and we will move on to council action. Are we ready for a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance 2024, extending the interim controls ordinance 2023-021 regarding chapter 17.32.110, 2 access points required, and direct staff to return with draft materials recommended approaches to the preferred options as deliberated with and recommended by the Planning Commission.
And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. All right, City Clerk, could you take a vote, please?
Counselor Downer,
No.
Counselor Butler,
Aye.
Counselor Lowe,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Janice,
Aye.
Counselor Rudder.
Aye.
All right, it has been approved. And now we will move on to 8B, and we will be hearing from Joel.
Hello, Joel Dressel, City Sequim Building Official Fire Marshal for the record. So tonight I'm presenting updates to Chapter 8.30, Fire Restrictions. This chapter is being updated for clarity and consistency with the current Washington State Fire Code and Olympic Region Clean Air Agency requirements. I think it's pretty easy to follow if you read through it. We did have one change. The fire district fire commissioner, Jeff Nichols, is here tonight. And I think we resolved the issue in section 8:30:20. It states a controlled fire authorized by Fire District 3 or the Department of Natural Resources. And we plan on striking the word by and changing it to for, just so that the public isn't thinking that the fire district might be able to authorize a fire, because the intention of that would be a fire for Fire District 3 or DNR. So with that, staff recommends council direct them to present an ordinance on the consent agenda at the next council meeting with that one word change.
And which section was that again, if you can remember?
That was 8:30:20. And that's going to be B8.
So just make sure, would you mind reading this sentence as corrected?
As corrected, it would state a controlled fire authorized for Fire District 3 or the Department of Natural Resources.
Can I clarify? Is that going to be corrected before we vote on it, or are we amending it tonight?
So, sorry, council, for purposes of the record, Christina Nelson Gross, city attorney. So I think what Joel is doing is just alerting you to this change that he would like to have implemented on the version that comes to council on the consent agenda, should council choose to move it that way. So it would look like this, except for that change on consent. And he's just alerting you to it. Is that correct,
Thank you.
Joel?
Yes, that's correct.
Any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. All right, there is, anybody like to make a motion?
I move to waive the second touch on this matter and direct staff to present an ordinance on the consent agenda with the changes suggested by Joel at the next council meeting.
And a second.
I second that.
Thank you so much. City Clerk, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Downer,
Yes.
Counselor Butler,
Yes.
Counselor Lowe,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Janice, Counselor Rudder.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Joel.
Thank you.
We will now move on to 8C, SMC Chapter 10.04, Model Traffic Ordinance Code Amendment, presented by Chief of Police Mike Hill.
Good evening. Purpose of the record, Mike Hill, Chief of Police. The first item I have is another portion of the code scrub regarding the model traffic ordinance. Very, very minor changes, as you can see through the strike-throughs, and it basically just cleans up all the parts that were already repealed or redacted. So that is all there is to that one. Doesn't require a public hearing. This is first touch, so you can decide to waive first touch and bring it back to consent next council meeting if you so choose.
All right. Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none. Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I move to waive the second touch on this matter and direct staff to present an ordinance on the consent agenda for the next available meeting to adopt the proposed amendments to the Sequim Municipal Code, Chapter 10.04, Model Traffic Ordinance.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dan. City Clerk, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Downer,
Yes.
Counselor Butler,
Yes.
Counselor Lowe,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Janice,
Yes.
Counselor Rudder.
Yes.
Motion pass.
All right, thank you so much. And you're also up for the SMC Chapter 10.09 Compression Braking Code Amendment.
It'd be easier to say what I just said again, but that's what we are doing. This is another code scrub for compression braking. There are even less changes and just cleans up some language in the already very brief SMC. Same goes as this doesn't require a public hearing. You can waive a second touch if you so choose. And that is all I have.
Any questions or comments from council? Just one comment. I really appreciate the really easy code scrub ones. These are great.
And thank you, Erica, as well.
All right, not seeing any questions or comments. Could I get a motion?
I move to waive the second touch on this matter and direct staff to present an ordinance on the consent agenda of the next available meeting that adopts the proposed revisions to SMC 10.09 compression braking.
And can I get a second? For the record, Brandon seconded. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Downer,
Yes.
Counselor Butler,
Yes.
Counselor Lowe,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
Mayor Janice, Counselor Rudder.
Yes.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Chief Hill. All right, on to our report section. Our youth liaisons. Do you have anything to report?
Is it working? All right. So for the record, this is Georgia Bullard speaking. So Earth Day preparations are in way for Sequim High School. This is Earth Month because it's April. So our Interact Club is planning to vote next meeting on what we want to do. So our options are we can either do a beach cleanup, we can plant some trees, or we could do a roadside cleanup. So we'll be doing one of those things, which will be to be determined what it is later. And then the Clallam County Fair is next weekend. So a bunch of Sequim High School students are planning to attend. A couple people have entries in like the agriculture section of the fair where they're showing off rabbits and things like that. And we're also setting up and taking down for the barn dance, which is this weekend. So yeah, and here is Malia Nelson.
Hello. A lot of Sequim High School clubs are also preparing for the Irrigation Festival. The Interact Club will walk as well as FFA and robotics and a lot of other clubs. So they'll have a big part in the parade. We're still prepping for the Interact Club, and Rotary is still prepping for Row Like Joe on June 1st. More details on that to come. Spring break just happened, so we're all back at school after our break, and it's gearing up just in time for AP tests in 2-3 weeks. So yeah, that's a big deal for a lot of us.
Good luck. Study hard. I know you guys can do it. I believe in you.
I have a quick question for you. You mentioned a fair. Could you elaborate on which fair and where it's taking place and all that?
The Clallam County Fair is taking place at the Clallam County Fairground, which is over in Port Angeles, I believe.
Yes, and you said when is it happening?
I thought it was next week. I might have been misinformed. We're Googling right now, but there is a barn dance for sure happening this weekend that we're setting up for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know I'm very familiar with the Clallam County Fair, so that's why I asked a clarifying question. I was like, you got to be referring to another community event, because that fair is happening in the third week of August, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, very intrigued to hear more about the barn dance event and the fair that is happening, so that folks can participate in that.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that, I guess. Apologies for the misinformation.
No worries. It's a collaborative team effort. I couldn't let that one go. I was like, you got to be referring to a different fair. So thank you very, very much, Georgia. I'm very excited to hear more about the barn dance that you all are gearing up for. There's another community event called the barn dance to support 5 Acre School on the 20th of April. So apparently April is a good month for a hoedown.
All right, thank you to our student liaisons. City manager report is up next.
Thank you. Nice to meet with you, council, and student liaisons. If you find that, let me know and I'll defer some time to you. So I wanted council to know that I met with Ned Floiter from the Sequim School District. As you know, he's kind of the CTE director and whatnot. He came over to give me kind of an update on where that's going. It turns out that they're reinitiating their CTE committees and effort since they got the $4.9 million from the state to fund the phase 1 of their CTE building. But he did want you to be invited to that twice a year. They're kind of statutorily required to do a CTE overview. It's called the CTE General Advisory Meeting, and that is occurring this Wednesday from 6 to 8. It's in the cafeteria. A lot of people attended. It's kind of a general overview. They follow us at agenda and whatnot. If you're interested in going and or if you'd like to have a tour prior to the 6 o'clock meeting, Ned would be happy to meet with you and give you a tour of the facility at 5. So if you're interested, we've been emailing back and forth today, and I said, well, let me just ask. So I guess let me know, or you can raise your hand now and let me know and whatever. So it sounds like there's some interest.
I'd be interested in that. Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
I would also.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Is our commitment that we passed for the CT, is it still good, or would we have to reinitiate?
I think
that
they'll be back. I think Ned accidentally came back and relieved you of your.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if they return to ask for another pledge. But I think the pledge was conditional on them getting state money and all that. So it basically made the pledge inoperable or whatever. So we'll see, but it's definitely moving forward. And I could go more into that. They're actually, if the recompete grant that is being submitted nationally occurs and Clallam County gets that has some additional funding for trades training. And Peninsula College would be working with the school district to expand that beyond just students at the high school. So they'd be using the facility in off hours and off days and whatnot. So you'll hear more about that, but we'll see if they get the grant. So some exciting things there. Oh, I was going to defer to Sue. I'm down to finance department. I'm sorry, Sue. I was gonna invite Sue to take the podium to update the council, knowing that you might be hearing from your constituents. We want the public to know about some major changes occurring due to the Tyler software implementation that's going to affect our residents. briefly. And it's just changed. So thanks, Sue. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Good evening, Council. Sue Hagener, Administrative Services Director for the record. And for those that you don't know or that may not know, we've been in the process of converting all of our major financial systems since about this time last year. So that includes our general ledger, our financial reporting, our bank reconciliations, accounts payable, payroll. That was a doozy. And we are about to reach a significant milestone in the conversion of our last big piece, which is our utility billing system. So like I said, we've been planning this and planning and scheming and creating new processes for the new system for over a year, but it's really kind of the rubber is hitting the road right now. In the next few weeks, you're going to see kind of a barrage of media from the city talking to our citizens and what they can expect. April is this is the big month because we go live in our new software system with fresh bills, fresh utility bills for all of our customers in the first week of May. Now, if you're used to seeing your utility bill right on May 1st, and we've got a lot of customers that are eagerly waiting to pay their bills on the 1st of every month, it's probably going to take 5 to 7 business days, a little bit longer, because we need to run parallel, we need to check data, we need to recalc some of the bills, make sure that everything is balanced between the two systems. So in order to prepare for that, like I mentioned, we're going to be kind of doing a media blitz. I've prepared kind of a media plan with Barb Hanna, Director of Marketing and Communications. We have reached out to our Tyler consultants. They are helping us with designing the messages that are going to go out. And like I said, I really wanted to get in front of you before you started seeing things out there in the media. So we're probably going to be down-ish for as we get closer to releasing the new bills into the wild, if you will, because we just need to take that time and make sure that there's minimal transactions in our old system, so it's a lot easier to balance in the new system, if that kind of makes sense. We have approximately 3,600 utility bills that we send out, so this is going to be a customer impact, and you might hear it. And just know that we in the finance department are committed to hand-holding because change is hard. One of the things that you'll notice, even if you've had an auto pay account or if you've had a paperless bill in the past, this first bill in May is going to be paper. So we're going paper, so it's going to prompt everybody to take that action. We're also going to have a new payment portal and multiple ways of paying your bills and getting set up in the new system. It is going to have a big impact, but we are super excited about the efficiencies that this new system is going to bring us. And it's going to bring the customer a lot more different options in terms of how to pay their bill, how to receive their bill. It's just that we need to start from first base, if you will, and we start with the paper bills. We're hoping that that triggers people to sign into the portal, and because if you're staring at a bill that you haven't seen one before, that's going to prompt action. So that was kind of our philosophy. But again, expect to see lots of communications over the next couple of weeks. It's really the heat of the battle is going to happen the last week of April, right around the 25th, 26th, all the way through the first week of May. So we're going to have our hands busy. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, finance will bend over backward to assist anybody with any of their utility billing needs.
2 questions for you, Sue.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
So first question, the first bill will be paper, but will customers have the chance to opt out of that after the first one?
Yes.
To get them digitally? Okay.
Yep. And the way that people opted out in our current system is they had to do that through a third-party processor. there's multiple ways now with the new system that we can actually trigger the paperless bill, or they can go into the portal and trigger that bill. So there's a lot of different options there. But everybody's going to get a paper bill. Sorry about that, trees, but we think that this is the best way to do it.
Okay. Second question.
Yes.
Because we're now doing our softwares with Tyler, I'm curious to know if troubleshooting is part of our contract with them.
Absolutely. So we started running live parallel with payroll, for example. I think it was in February. We kind of went through March. We're still troubleshooting. They have what they call a white glove service. So for a couple of weeks as we go live, it's going to be lots of troubleshooting. And then they transition us to what's called transition services for about a month. We can call them about anything. And then of course, after that period, we just go to regular support. But I will tell you that they are on the ball. If we're still learning the new system and when I can't find something or I don't know what I'm looking at, I just go onto a little chat button and within 20 minutes, somebody is on my computer looking at what I'm looking at and helping me figure out the problem. So I've been super, super impressed with the level of support. So
that's great. I would have hated to hear, nope, we just got it. And they're like, all right, have at her.
Yeah, it's not like we haven't run into some, to some issues. We've been like, I can't remember who said it, but we've been building the plane while we're flying it, right? So there's a certain amount of that. But again, this is going to have the biggest impact to our customers and the people that you talk to every day. So I just wanted to get in front of you and let you know that more conversion fun is on the way.
Awesome. Thank you, Sue. Any other questions from council? Not seeing any? All right.
Thank you, everybody.
I think the key there is if they need to re-register in the new system. So, and it was pretty clearly stated, but there's multiple ways, but it's going to require some, and if you have a chance to promote online payment, please do. We're trying to digitize and minimize all of that. A lot of our demographics still like to come in and visit with Sue and her staff because they're so kind, but for efficiency's sake, we do have some digital processes.
Implied in that having to re-up or re-register is that existing auto pay methods won't carry over?
They don't. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to say. Everybody needs to redo that. Yeah. On the new system. Okay. Thank you, Sue. Yeah. A couple things. I'll just run through a couple of departments then. Communications and marketing. You have seen several times now the community survey. Everything from the slides to the comments to the full report. All that's been updated on our webpage now. We don't have the software piece of that where our residents can slice and dice it yet, but it's coming. We've seen it. We've played with it a little bit, but it's not ready to be posted yet. But everything else is on our webpage under residents if you're looking for it. So you're welcome to point people to that should you wish. And then I mentioned, I think last time we met, that Barb and I, and really the whole senior management team, is working on a State of the City report. So we hope to have that out probably by the next time or close by the next time that we meet. I'm planning on a couple versions of that. One specifically aimed at City Council. It's more department by department and things that you will know and understand. That will be emailed to you, and it will have an audio just like you like to receive things. For Rotary Club and the Chamber and Coffee with Colleen and all the other roadshow places that it will be shared. It will probably be a different version of that. So, but we'll start. You all will get the first version of it, and it will be, kind of specific to your training and to the city operations. All right. So from the community or Department of Community Development, we should be able to bring to you a new hearing examiner agreement at the next City Council meeting. That's been out to RFP, and we're just working on the contract and closing things up there. And then, of course, we're working on a transition plan. All of us are losing sleep over that, but we do have 9 applicants from so far, and we know of several others that are fairly highly qualified that have expressed interest, and so we're just waiting for those. Not a fun transition, and but we're working hard on it. So, this is for development director? Yeah. Community development. It's community and economic development, yes. Yes. So from our police department, I think several of you were here for Mayor Larson's promotion. It's a sergeant. I think I saw several of you. Your chamber was packed with support from family to other agencies. It was a really nice ceremony. I think I've mentioned to you before, if our chief hasn't, every 4 years we go through an accreditation process. We've done that three different times already. It's through the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs. They evaluate us on 130 to about 150 standards to make sure that we're doing best practices. And so that will be occurring next week, and we'll have a report after that. But we, kudos to our PD, who always seems to pass that fine. I also wanted to shout out to the PD police department. I think someone said quit using acronyms. Our police department, they were able to help the Clallam County Sheriff's Office in apprehending 3 people that you probably read about in the paper that had committed that home robbery, invasion robbery thing just outside the city limits. So thank you, Chief, and your wonderful staff for that. And the other thing we didn't start with was Megan. That was on the agenda. Oops. So I was going to say, oh my goodness, I'm really off tonight. I got so excited about speaking. So I do need to defer to her. I was going to tell you, just like Megan tonight gave you an update on our water that I heard you talk about at your retreat, and it was in our survey comments from the residents that were worried about drought, or do we have enough? We have prepared a brief overview of that tonight so that you can rest as soundly as I do when we think about water resilience. So Megan, you can start making the way. I'm almost done here. So she does have it was on the agenda, so I'm sorry for not starting with her. Oh my goodness. Thank you for being here. As you know, Megan is probably the county or the whole peninsula expert on all things resilient and water. So, and next time we meet, our chief is going to be prepared to do a report like you're going to hear from Megan, just an overview for the council on homelessness, people living in RVs, graffitis, and just to give you an update on some of those things, because I know that you constantly receive emails on that. My last thing, and at least I'm on Public Works, which Megan is in. So Megan has recently submitted a grant. It's called Congressionally Directed Spending. It's phase 1 for city operations, our facility, trying to get some money for that. It's a $2 million grant for our shop, and so hopefully that will come through. I think some of you have seen some of the media. There's email, there's been press release. Our master transportation plan is now in the phase of asking. It's about a 10-minute survey. And so please promote. That's open till April 15th. We can extend that if we don't have a lot of participation, but it only occurs every 10 years. So really interested in having your input and your constituents' input on our transportation master plan. And 2 last things. One, I wanted to thank Rachel and several of the staff that turned out for the June Robinson Park right across the street. There was work. It was kind of a service day over there. We have 24 plots over there, and so they just appreciate all the community service that you all do all around. And this one's kind of exciting for me. We finally got what's called the ground penetrating radar unit. So this is a system, and it kind of looks like I thought it was auto steering GPS lawnmower, because it looks like a lawnmower. It's got this little podium or little stand on it with a radar GPS thing on top of it. Anyway, it's a radar. So as you know, one of our many softwares that we're trying to catch up on is to know where our assets are, particularly our infrastructure assets that are underground that we don't really know exactly where they are. So this allows us to be able to run this robot or this radar unit up and down our streets and locate where our pipes are and where our valves are. And then that will be transferred into our cardiograph, which is our asset management. So when we wonder where it is, we won't be digging on the wrong side of the street looking for something. So that isn't there. So anyway, I was very excited about that. I still am eager to go out and actually see that in action. I've just seen pictures of it. And so the Public Works Department's very excited about that. It really helps us get to where we want to get to. How else do you find something that was put in there 50 years ago, right, underground? So with that, Megan, you're on. Thank you for being here and for your work in making this preparation for staff or council.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Council. I'm Megan Euchre, Resource Analyst. I'm going to have to take a moment to see if I can get a presentation put up because I don't see the button that I would be in charge of casting a presentation. Oh, yes, never mind. That happened. Anthony is listening. Thank you, Anthony. So I did place on your desk a fact sheet, and that's one reason I'm here tonight. So, hearing from Matt and Sarah and that, this is received a lot of comment in our community survey, the subject of water and water availability, knowing that it's a very important, question for current resources in the future. We figured it would be a great time to just come and, first of all, develop this fact sheet to give you all something a little to delve into, as well as the public. It will be posted on our website under the fact sheets webpage. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. It's coming. So I just have some slides that folks at home can see and you can see there, which is essentially just some, sort of a summary and bullet points of this fact sheet so we can have a good place to start there. So water availability, sort of got to get used to forwarding. There we go. All right, so obviously we know that water is a finite resource, and we are part of a team of water, of resource managers for the Dungeness, river basin to make sure that there's adequate water availability for the communities as well as the general ecosystem. Fish farms and people is a phrase that you might be familiar with. Of course, the city of Sequim, we're responsible for providing the drinking water to our residents and the businesses within the city. Not everyone's connected to water in the city, but most residents and businesses. And of course, we're also partnered via regulation and also just a lot of technical assistance by Washington state agencies like Department of Health and Department of Ecology, who are administering municipal water law. As you're probably familiar, but I know this came a little bit before some of you joined council, we do have a web page that has our water system plan, and the final version was approved by council and has been sent off for kind of the final approval to Department of Health. So we're still waiting for that. But of course, among other things, it addresses our water supply, both the quantity and the quality of that supply, as well as water demand over time. So our water rights, population growth, and the operation of our system, how we move, transport, deliver, and store water. Of course, our water utility program is addressing this every day as they're out there reading meters and, taking care of pipes and doing everything else that they can to deliver, clean quality water to people. And stewarding our water resources over, water system plan, of course, oversees a 10 and 20 year planning periods. probably familiar with the fact that we primarily draw from 3 sources. We have 4 water rights, but draw from 3 sources, 2 well fields, Silberhorn and Port Williams, and then an infiltration gallery, Rainy Well infiltration gallery. We have 3 reservoirs that we use for 2.9 million gallons total capacity. And as of 2021, we had almost 3,000 accounts. And this is equivalent to almost 6,000 equivalent residential units. So ERU is a kind of a way of balancing commercial and residential water units. So you're just looking, okay, we got this many units. So a business that uses a lot of water, finding that equivalency for versus a home, just a single family residence. So this little table starts to look at, our 20-year planning period from 2021 to 2041. The population growth expected at 3%, and what that would mean for those ERUs. Under our water right, the max gallons per minute that we can draw, currently stands around 1,458. And that really only represents 34% of the total water right that we're, again, allowed to draw those, gallons per minute out. And then over the annual withdrawal, the acre feet, 1,141, it's even a smaller slice of the percent of the water right used. So this is kind of the instantaneous water right versus our annual water right. And then our storage capacity that I mentioned earlier, and the needed storage in 2021. You can see we're not quite using it all up. Storage by 2041, we're expected to get a little closer to capacity. But with in terms of, the amount of water that we have the right to use, we won't quite be scratching that. If you can see, not even half in terms of our annual withdrawal. So again, that's our paper water right. To address, water usage and how we affect other water users in the area, we are pursuing, the new deep well. We're currently drilling that at Silberhorn well field, and that will help and drilling that deeper to the 3rd aquifer in order to sort of conserve water usage and impacts in the shallow aquifer. Water gets complicated, as you can tell. It's where you draw it from and what your source is. The city draws all of our water from wells, so from underground, from the aquifers versus any surface water take at this time. And then in 10 years, we will be reassessing the population, those equivalent residential units, and especially addressing that need for additional storage kind of before our 20-year plan finishes up. And we start to hit that capacity. So this is just some visual representation of that same gallons per minute. The annual withdrawal, again, the green line, as we're not quite hitting our max, not even half.
That was a 44%.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. And then the needed storage, that's where we're, expecting our capacity. And again, have that on our long-term capital improvement plan to be looking at expanded storage. Of course, it's on everyone's mind as we've hit a few declared droughts in the last few years that there's, we're seeing snowpack deficits in the Olympics as the glacier shrinks, and forecasting a drier than normal year even this year. And on that topic, the city has been for decades and continues to coordinate with regional partners. We're certainly not alone in who we're sharing the water with and who we're coordinating water resources with. So of course, the Dungeness River Management Team, we've been on that from the beginning. We continue to meet with them monthly. Every Wednesday, it is second Wednesday of the month, it is a public meeting. And with them and other regional partners, including Jamestown Sklallam Tribe, Clallam County, irrigators, PUD, we're talking about water storage, salmon habitat, water conservation projects, and climate resiliency and water resource planning. Of course, we're also talking about those things with the hazard mitigation plan and other projects, off-channel reservoir. It obviously comes up in a lot of water resources come up in a lot of different capacities. And of course, our water system plan, as you adopted that, you also adopted water conservation goals, including just customer education, power of knowledge, conservation pricing, and service meter improvements to help us with efficiency. And of course, we're really lucky to have a reclaimed water system that keeps our playfields and street medians green without using any drinking water, something that we hope to share even more with the public and make it clear that, while we do encourage brown lawns, when you don't have access to reclaimed water, when you're using, just your regular drinking water, we encourage conservation of brown lawns, but we're lucky to be able to keep, again, our playfields green through reclaimed water that would otherwise go to the straight, but we can use it for watering. So just real quickly, drought defined, you can find this on the Department of Ecology's website, and we encourage you to look there more. The legal definition of drought is based on water availability. And so we did see a drought emergency declared last year. Big impetus for that is to allow the state to direct financial resources to communities who might be suffering impacts of drought. We're just here to coordinate with our partners and with you all on making sure that we conserve water and consider our water availability on into the future, projects and other efficiencies of our system that need to be addressed to ensure that we are able to manage those resources wisely in the future. And that's it. Any questions?
I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate that. That was a really quick response to, was that this Monday or last Monday?
A week ago.
So thank you for putting that together.
Yeah, you can thank Sarah and Matt for passing that message along.
Yeah.
I want to echo that. Excellent work. Good job, team. I would like to, I'm so grateful that we are doing so much. And I know we are very fortunate to have that reclaimed water system. I think that there's still more we could be doing, emulating cities like the city of Spokane, the city of Port Angeles, to name two that popped in my mind that I'm familiar with their programming to incentivize residents to install water-wise equipment in their home, and how do we do more education on drought tolerant landscaping in our Sequim the municipal code. The word drought shows up 5 times, and it's in reference to encouraging drought tolerant landscaping. And definitely that is important, but I wonder, as we move into this new situation of having lower water availability, what else can we do? What more can we do to help folks make the switch and stop watering their lawns? And plant more lavender. I mean, for goodness sakes.
So I think a well-designed water conservation program shows actual benefits, significant benefits, and many cities do them, and we just haven't kicked that off yet. But I think it's the full intent to do that with open houses, with websites, with a lot of initiatives, and why wouldn't we? Yeah, even though we're in good shape, I just wanted you to know that we're in good shape for decades, but doesn't mean that we shouldn't also put some prevention and some conservation in place. So we plan on that too.
Any other questions or comments from council?
I'm curious what more storage would look like. Another reservoir up on the hill, or?
Thank you for asking that. Yep, that's highly likely. Yeah, yep. Something like that. That would, yes.
That makes sense. I just didn't know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Megan. City Manager, did you have any other updates?
No, I just my apologies to Megan and to council for not looking down at the agenda. So thank you, Megan, for sticking around. Appreciate putting that together for us. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
And next up, we have City Council reports. I'll just lead it off here. I had a Housing Solutions Committee meeting, and the committee approved 2 of the applications for new council members. So the Housing Solutions Committee has this application process that agencies or developers can apply to in order to receive the 1406 or 1590 funds. And so this was the first time that we were able to approve applications. And so the committee approved 2 applications. One of them is in Sequim, is Peninsula Behavioral Health. I don't know if you might remember, they have an older building that was kind of down the road from Helen Haller at the corner of, what is that, 5th and Fir. Yes, thank you. And they ended up moving the PBH building across the street, like kitty corner, but they still own the old building. And so they're hoping to turn that into a residence for 5 people, I believe it was. So that was exciting to approve. It's just a little bit of housing, but housing. So it's very exciting. And the other project, Peninsula Behavioral Health, has a housing for, it's at 2nd and Oak in Port Angeles, using a combination of the 1406 and 1590 funds. And that's my report. Any other reports? Yeah.
Not a report, but well, I did go to the Clallam County Transit Authority awards banquet last night, and they're so good to their employees. They get to spin a wheel and get that cash amount and get all sorts of attendance records. Mostly they focus on safety records, and it's amazing how what good driving records they have. Of course, we want them to, but they're a good group of people. Anyway, I have a request, and I'm going to make the request of Chief Hill. I have 3 questions that I think that people in Sequim are interested in hearing the answers. And the questions would be about people living in cars or RVs that are parked on public property. How much does it cost to tow an RV? And what situation? Oh, only 3 questions. And what is the city's, how much money? But how much was another one, the last one? That was 2. Okay. Yeah. And the 3rd question would be, what is the city's response to graffiti? And then I think in future meetings, after the presentation and before we do the budgeting, I think council needs to sit down and talk about setting aside money to deal with towing unoccupied RVs. The term is not abandoned. Abandoned means it's been towed and locked up for 120 days. So unoccupied cars and RVs and graffiti. And we could sit down and add that to the budget. I see you're going to touch your thing. Do you think you could do that in 20 to 25 minutes, Chief? And then we can ask questions. And then in the future, we'll talk about the financial ramifications for the city budget. Thank you.
You wanted that as a presentation?
Yes, only 3 questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just making sure if you like public meeting.
No, not a public meeting, just on our agenda.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that he was planning on doing that at the next meeting under the city manager report, much like Megan did, except we'll actually let him go first.
We're going to hold you to that. So it's already planned. That's
He's got
great.
a uniform and a gun.
All right, Harmony.
Yeah, just a quick corollary to that, add or follow-up comment. I should stop pontificating. I look forward to it. I would say I had a really great tour of the police department with Chief Hill. That we are very, very fortunate in the city, and I know that your presentation is going to be very informative. It was informative for me, the tour and having this exact discussion. So looking forward to that for everyone. Come back, stay tuned. 2 weeks. Come on down.
My concern is that because I grew up in the big city, my concern is that is where blight starts, with graffiti and trash on people's porches and in their yards, and vehicles that are just left someplace. So I think people in Sequim have the same concerns. Thank you.
Any other council reports or topics for open discussion? Going once, going twice. All right, not seeing any. Our next agenda planning meeting is Tuesday, April 16th. Anyone interested in going? I see Dan checking his calendar.
Kathy, did you say you can? Or you cannot? Okay. I think I'm available and I'm always interested. So
All right, hopefully we can
anybody
see you
else-
there.
yeah, it's not a Monday.
I know.
All right. Our next meeting will be a special meeting, Monday, April 15th, beginning at 4 p.m.
What time is that?
At 4 p.m.
Sorry.
4:00 in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Vote aye. All right. Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.